24th, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. Now, this week, I've walked through the advisory board operating system and in practice for one specific challenge, right? Internationalization. So let's do a week recap because today I'm like to wrap up everything in how all these pieces work together. So let's pull the model right away in our screen so you can see what we're talking about. And here's the model. Now, this week we talk about the whole model in different sections just to make sure that we go deeper in one of them. So on Monday we talk about commercial acceleration. If you go international, you will looking for mostly commercial acceleration to scale. So you need your brand, your people, and your partnership to do that. On Tuesday we talk about how growth capital in the sense of the predictability of that growth, international growth, right? So if you're going into internationally, what are the things that you have to consider beside the whole model? Particularly, you're looking into partnerships, meaning distribution centers or resellers or other people that actually can open the doors into the new market, the revenues and your assets, how that plays in, what is the place in this international activity. On Wednesday, we talk about very important things like how the performances of your people, your teams, your governance, risk, and compliance, and how your assets are portable if you make from one country to the other. So these are your systems, and system not always means software. It means actually your operation procedures, your workflows, how the standardization of the things that you do, how you do it, etc., etc. That gives you the control and the resilience. And yesterday we talked about the other section, which is your team, particularly your teams, how they bring that edge, that transformation, that innovation. Because if you might have everything in the right place, in the right conditions, but if you look from the inside out, but when you look from inside, meaning who is a team that is going to deliver all these things, then you have that edge to go international, to be the big splash in the world, to put your mark in the universe, start to be a bit impacted because they say probably we don't have the right team because it's overstretched. As I mentioned, I think an example yesterday was if you have a frame and you try to stretch a fabric around that frame, if the weave is not strong enough, it starts to crack everywhere, right? So it's not a good idea to go international, and you need this dynamic in your teams to make sure that you have the right people in the right places to do what you need to do. So today, as a conclusion, and I guess that is simple, business does not become more valuable because it becomes more international, right? So this sometimes is a confusion. Say, oh, if we go cross-border to another continent, we are going to have a way much valuable business. And unfortunately, it's not always the case. It becomes more valuable when the internationalization proves that the core of your business is portable, your resilience, and also you are investable, right? So it's not just say we're going international and then you start to weaken your position in the place where you have your headquarters, put it away. So that is a risk I would like to address today to close this week. And based on the recap of the week, so the foreign movement is mistaken for real scale, right? So you say we go there and we're going to make a big splash in the world, but what happens is that you start to realize that the businesses start to get weaker and weaker and weaker, less fundable, the cycle, the cash flows start to get tighter, etc., etc. So, and this is where I come in as a board advisor. I put together a rotating international advisory board around a milestone in front of your company. So the organization gets the specialist capability it needs in a fraction of the time it takes to hire one executive or the talent that you're looking for. So without a big consulting overhead, without a talent lock-in, because you don't want a talent that actually 6 months down the line or a year down the line, it doesn't produce the output that you're looking for because their function was specifically for something very, very critical at that time, but a year later it is not the case anymore. And also we can swap members every 6 months or a year as the project evolves. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, let's look at three problems with internationalization, because I think that this is very important to consider. The first one is that if you're not aware, Provision 29 it becomes effective on January this year, 2026. So boards are expected to monitor and review the effectiveness of the risk management and internal controls frameworks and declare on the effectiveness of material controls, right? And you say, okay, the Provision 29 is a financial council authority. It's a corporate governance code, it's a UK thing, so why this have to do with me? Okay, let's analyze a few, or actually analyze, no, it's more like let's understand a few things here. The first thing, if you're in the UK, this is part of your mandate now, right? So you have to declare the effectiveness of material control. So it's not anymore a politics, it's not more any a policy, it's not anymore the narrative. You have to declare effectiveness, right? So that your name is down the line now, full stop. What it means if you are doing business from the other countries like the European Union or the US into the UK. Now, the UK businesses, if you're going international from other countries into UK, you are now expected to show enough evidence and proof that the directors and the executives and the founders of the UK company and the Provision 29, they can provide that evidence, right? So we say, what I have to do is it's a problem, it's a UK problem. It is not anymore. It's an international problem, because now everybody have to prove evidence that actually the effectiveness of the material controls are there in the risk management, internal controls, frameworks, you name it. So now you know that if you're doing a tender, if you're trying to break into the UK, if you're trying to do business in the UK, or if you're doing business in the UK and you are from other geography, and you say, why these things are happening? Well, look what's happening. This is what happened, right? Now, if you have nothing to do with this scenario, like you're not in the UK, or you're not doing business with the UK, or you're not doing business exporting from the UK, but you are completely very happy in somewhere else in the world, look what's happening in that geography, right? So now, if the governance code is asking to the directors, executives, or founders there to declare on the effectiveness of the material controls, this is very important, because actually they say, oh, hold on a second. So now I can do this improvement. I can make this business more transferable. I can make this business more predictable, because I can have evidence of effectiveness of material controls, right? So this is a very, very good lesson, regardless where is your position in these scenarios, importing, exporting, not doing, providing services or not. But the lesson here is a business principle, right? So at the end, what we aim is to have your business more valuable, more bankable in terms, actually, if you're looking for investors, if you're looking for capital, if you're going to raise, etc., having this effectiveness on the material controls in terms of risk management, internal controls, frameworks, etc., is very valuable for the other side, which is the capital side, because they say this company really have these things very clear, how they do things, how predictable they are, how transferable they are, how they can scale, because they have all these things in place, right? This is a massive problem. It is, or actually you can turn it into an advantage to you. I would like to say that it's a massive advantage, because now you're aware of something that you perhaps were not aware, or you saw that as this is a big problem. Now you say, hold on a second, how we can transform this in something that actually is more valuable for the company. And the valuation, it adds an extra point here, or an extra digit in our valuation, our EBITDA, our EBIT, right? Now, let's look at a second problem here, which is investors are not asking for a louder international story. They are asking for a more credible one. And this is tied up to this Provision 29 and what we just discussed. But listen what PwC says. They say the investors are reinforcing the message: transformation first, growth second, right? This is a survey done by PwC, so from the investor side. So that supports also what I just said. So it's not just about doing it for the sake of it, it's because investors also are looking into these kind of things. And this is a third problem when you go on international, with this productivity. This is unforgiving, right? And this is coming from a national statistics office in the UK, and where they say the productivity is dropping by 0.5% quarter on quarter, right? So, well, that the last statistic published was Q4 2025. So I don't know if it's quarter on quarter, but actually the message here is that productivity is dropping. So what that means that companies are looking to hire more people because the output is not as used to be. Several reasons. We are not going to analyze the reasons, but actually, if you're looking to go international and the productivity lines are lower than before, then there's a problem because you need to hire more people to do the same job, right? And the people say, well, in AI-driven economies, the things are different. Is all we can do more things with less people, etc., etc. Be careful. Be careful because actually, not necessarily AI is a solution for everything. So, in that setting, in terms of productivity, expansions, right, that add what they do is that add risk faster than capability is than the braveness to go international. So it is expensive. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you put all these things together, so imagine going global is like taking a house of one foundation and lift it and put it in other several foundations, right? As a de-risk seems absolutely fantastic. But if the structure of the original house is sound, meaning that it's very solid, is very good, and can sustain that lifting and putting into it several different foundations to de-risk in one foundation. So if it holds, it's absolutely fantastic. But you have to do a very good job to make sure that the structural integrity of that house sustain while you are changing the foundations. So, and if it's not, guess what? It's very simple. It cracks. It shows faster than you can think, and probably in the lift already you will start to see the things start to wobble and get very, very messy. Now, so as a board advisor, what I will suggest. So this is when the proof you're looking for proofs instead of drifts, right? So this is what I do as a board advisor. What I do, the first thing is when you're looking into going international, use the 5 closing board questions that every time a new market is discussed, if you're already international or not, and this works for any geography in the world. So actually, it doesn't matter where you're located. If you're going international, ask this question because they are very valuable. Number one is, what part of our success is truly transferable, right? Because you might have a very localized offering that doesn't travel anywhere in the world, right? So do you have the right mechanisms to understand if that successful story is going to be success at the same time in somewhere else, right? Question number 2, what happened if the founder or this executive team or these non-executive directors are absent for whichever reason for 30 days or more? And absent doesn't mean that they go on holidays and they don't pick up the phone. Absent, it means that they are too absorbed in something else that actually they cannot take care of the other side of the business, right? So absenteeism sometimes is considered like a gone, not available, not reachable. But sometimes absenteeism is like a attention span, dedication, capacity to travel and negotiate, to work with other people internationally, etc., etc. So absenteeism is not just, as I mentioned, gone, cannot pick up the phone, not answer the emails. It means actually divided attention when you need to put a lot of attention and dedication to a market for 30 days in a row. Number 3, can we compare performances across markets in a disciplined way, right? So can we compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges, right? It's not like, I have a kiwi here, I have an apple here. They both are doing amazing, but your business are apples, are not kiwis, right? So just be careful with that kind of things. Number four, what must remain standard and what can be localized. And here's a tricky one. As much standardization you can bring to any market, the better, because that is the same processes and system that you employ across the board, meaning across the board in different countries, different continents, etc. I know that many things have to be localized: agreements, contracts, wording, accounting, taxation, etc. Though, in terms of the business itself, how much can be standardized or continue the standardization of, because you develop efficiencies, operating systems, workflows, etc., that make you successful in one geography, how much of that can be transferred untouched to the next one? And the fifth question is, will expansion improve investor trust or only inflate the story, right? Because what you want to, when you do an expansion, you definitely are looking for capital in a way or how, right? So the best way to do it is to do all these things that I'm mentioning. So make sure that you are every step along the line, you're improving your investor trust, right? So they can say, it makes sense, I'm happy with this, I will put an extra check on this operation because I believe that's going to be very good. Even if it's a risk, how much you de-risk the perception that actually is a bad move is very important. So if you make a wonderful story in terms of marketing, is amazing. In terms of selling, is amazing. Now that sustains that, and that sustain means actually is evidence enough for an investor. It could be a line of credit, could be a loan, could be shares, you name it. But is that trust there strong enough, or you build enough trust to these people or the capital, as they say, to keep trusting in you and investing in you? Now, the second thing I will suggest is use a scenarios test, not a headline number. So if two companies, here's back to the investor points. So if two companies have 5 million in revenue and they're looking to increase to 10 million revenue in another geography, what usually happens is that one company is more investable because the architecture is disciplined, right? So all the things that we're mentioning is all proven, is evidence, and you can deliver that. But the other company will never reach out to that level because they are more fragile, because the risks multiply faster than quality, because they are not evidence things, it's more impulsive. They think they can do it because they can replicate something that they've done in the in-country, but they have just the language barrier is a whole issue. Anyway, and the third thing is just this model that we have in front of us is the operating system as a join-up board system. So you can see everything happen at the same time every single day. It's not a linear thing that goes one fight after the other. Everything operates at the same time. So scales on the top of the model, the scale checks whether the business can travel, right? So you have how you scale. On the right, you have the predictability. So that checks whether the economics transfer to. And in terms of resilience, that checks whether the systems can be repeatable. And on the left side, the reinvention, the transformation, the edge that you're looking for ensures the business remains coherent and valuable as it grows, right? So all these things operate at the same time, at the same in the same hour. So if those four are not connected, like in this model, the board, the executive team, and you as a founder still treating internationalization as a movement, a linear movement, rather than a valuation strategy where everything is evidence and can be put in front of investor, or as evaluation into the market and say, we are a company that actually are strong and we can prove that. So what is a decision question here now? So how does the board get the right capabilities around the table to do that properly, right? What are the capabilities that we need to do that properly? And this is where I come in, and this is what you gain working with me. So there's three main things I would like to highlight every time, which is business outcomes, how you differentiate, and how I can help you to reduce risks. In terms of business outcomes, I help boards, executive teams, and founders to make international, or to turn the international growth from a collection of market moves into one operating system. So the transferability, the repeatability, the resilience, and the strategic coherence supports each other. Right? It's not something actually is an impulsive thing. It's very, very, very well documented evidence why the things are done the way they are done towards very, very specific business outcomes. In terms of differentiator, I built a rotating international advisory board around the company's next milestone, right? So that gives the board specialist capabilities faster than hire one single executive without the big consulting overhead or the talent locking, because sometimes you lock with one talent and then a year later, what happened with that talent? Now, in terms of risk reduction, members can be swapped every 6 months of the advisory board. So that business evolves when the business evolves. So expertise keeps pacing with the board agenda or your agenda as a founder, and the company avoids carrying the wrong capability for too long. And so the statics boards sometimes have that problem. So they carry the same thinking for too long, and when they have to fix it, it's very expensive. Now, interesting. One action you can take home today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less. Before your next board or executive team, or you as a founder, before your next cycle starts, add a session on the diary called International Readiness Review, and require all your team members or your board to answer the 5 board questions I mentioned earlier with evidence, not aspiration, with evidence. So I'm going to put a post in LinkedIn later on with all these questions, so you have it there handy and you can act or use it as you like it. Now, if you are looking in, or you have in a position now that you're looking international, you want to pressure test international readiness and build the right capabilities around the milestones in front of you, let's have a 30-minute goal so I can understand where you're standing today, what you're looking for to achieve, and how an international advisory board can help you to achieve those goals or those aims that you have for your company. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk on Monday again. Thank you very much.